Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 6 of the Rich by Monday podcast. I'm your host, Jared Wilkins, the Google grad, along
Oh
with
man,
the
I
host
thought
of
yo, I thought we talked about this
Forgot
last week.
to
You introduced both of us, and I'm Doris Creighton. Good, it's
Oh
great.
man, yeah, man, it's one of them days.
Yeah, as you can
It's
tell,
it's it's been a tough 48 hours.
man.
You know,
Yeah, I was looking for my glasses for like an hour, so you can see my eyeballs naked. So
no more Kevin Samuels filter,
right, I can't look smart.
huh?
Can't look smart anymore. So
You seen that picture of him looking like an auntie?
yeah,
It was it was like, yo, how you letting this dude talk to you and he
you're
look
right.
like this? Yeah,
It's
that's
something
wild.
about like the super aggressive men who go hard on women. It's almost you almost think that they just didn't have no women back in the day at one point in their lives.
I think that's the
Um,
case.
yeah, it's like you was never
I think that's
cool.
it.
You never could pull women, couldn't holler and spit. Back in the day, as we used to say.
I think that's what it comes from. Like you had to go through, you had to put yourself through so many different like cycles of change to where maybe
Hmm.
he feels like, well, if I had to go through all this to get all the
Hmm.
women that I want and make these changes, like for me, you got to do the same
Right.
too. You know,
Yeah. I
like I
mean,
used to
it's
weigh, if I used to weigh 95 pounds and then I had to gain weight to be 190,
hmm
like you got to lose weight.
yep, yep. And yeah, it's very interesting. Um, very interesting. So,
Yeah. Anyway, though, so I want to ask you though, because um, it is a hot topic, and there's certain parts of it that I want to touch on. So, I want to ask
mhm.
you: have you heard the new Jay Z or DJ Khaled song with Jay Z and Nas?
Yep, just ran it.
Okay,
Yep, just gave it a run.
so before I give my opinion, I don't want to say opinion, but before I just point out some things, how did you? What was your first impression of the record?
We only gave it one run. I hate to, not give music enough runs to give a full
Mm-hmm.
opinion, but it didn't seem like immediate slapper. You know, like immediate, like I'm gonna play this. You know, getting dressed. I'm gonna play this, and you know how you hear something for the first time, you're like, oh yeah, I know exactly. Like, it's like theme music.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get that feeling. So I don't think it could be possible that it might after a few runs grow on you, but I didn't have like an initial reaction to it. Like I need
Okay.
to hear this.
Okay. Because
So
there was a point. So Nas Nas's verse was first, right? And
hmm
he mentions a lot of things or a lot of stuff about something or a particular topic that we touch on almost every episode, which
hmm
is cryptocurrency,
hmm
right? And um, I'm probably I don't want to say I'm against crypto. I just don't think we're in a space where, well, for one, I don't think the market really understands what it is and what it actually could be. And I
hmm
don't think the public fully understands like what it is as a store of value. I don't think they know what that is.
right.
Right. Um, I think institutional, like the institutional level investors, solely took a position in Bitcoin as like a hedge against inflation for the dollar.
Mm.
So they see enough public money there, they'll go ahead and they'll follow it.
Just
I
to
mean,
cover their bets.
yeah,
Just
because
put a little money to it.
you got to think, do you really believe that the value or the volume that Bitcoin has been receiving is only from like retail traders, like regular guys like us?
No, no, no. It has to be institutional investors that have some type of investment for sure.
So Um, I think you have to convince old money, you know what I'm saying, to view it through the lens of this can be an actual currency.
Hmm.
Um, I
Yeah,
don't think that's
which
gonna
makes
happen.
sense because
Yeah,
if I'm old money, I don't care about your new play money. I
exactly.
have what works. I think it's for people who don't have enough old money or the old fiat that they want to make a new game with a new one
Yeah.
to come up on it. So I can completely understand that.
And who's to say like the way we spend money now is that not digital currency?
Yeah, it is. It's like I see digital numbers go down in my in my bank account. I'm not I'm not handling real actual currency day to day.
So
So I
I
mean I can see
I
it's not a huge stretch.
I saw a video, and again, I understand the use case of blockchain technology,
Mm-hmm.
100%. I'm strictly talking about like cryptocurrency, which is
Mm-hmm.
money based on the blockchain, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the internet of money.
Mm-hmm.
But I was watching a video of a guy who created his own coin called Pump Coin.
Okay. Pump.
Yes,
Okay.
and
You can't just pick any name.
he minted so many coins. I can't remember all the details, and I'm gonna mess this up. But he minted so many coins and held a certain percentage of them so that as it gets released to the public and they continue to buy it up, of course, the value or the price of the coin will rise as demand rises because there aren't that
Mm-hmm.
many available. Um, and just by doing that, his coin, like the market cap of his coin was like $3.5 billion.
Wow.
So he was worth $3.5 billion.
Mm. So should we just make a coin? Is that what you're saying?
You can. That's the thing. Like you
Just make a
literally can.
coin.
But if he sold it, it wouldn't be that way because the only
Mm.
reason why the thing that was giving it value was the limited supply.
Mm-hmm.
So if he dilutes the market, it's no longer worth that because he'd be dumping trillions of coins.
Right. You just have to
You
hold
know?
on to them.
Yeah.
I do like the idea that Bitcoin has I guess like a finite date where someone would mine the last Bitcoin. I think it was like 2048.
Hmm.
So that kind of gives it like I guess equivalency to like the gold standard where there's only um, so much gold. Um, but so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I just really started looking into like Bitcoin and how the blockchain works, and
Yeah.
it's a pretty secure system. Like
Hmm.
um, I guess the so many blocks are actually created. Um, from I don't know. I don't want to go into it because I really don't know exactly how it
Yeah.
worked. But it when I looked at it, it seemed pretty secure. Like people actually couldn't just like break into it. You have to
No,
have
it
like
would it would
so many
take.
different people to
Yeah.
verify that. And if you broke, if you let's say you did change a block, you'd have to change all the blocks before it, which is like completely like it's almost impossible because it takes 10 minutes for each one to
Yeah.
be redone. And it's just like no one's putting in that type of work.
Nah, it would take a massive amount of like computer technology
Yeah. And
to
by
do
that time
that.
it's like it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. Um, and that's why I understand the tech, and I get the concept of decentralizing currency to where similar to email, how email changed communication, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
at first, communication was basically monopolized by the phone companies. If you
Right.
lived if you lived in another country, I couldn't just call you directly.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go through the phone company. But then once the internet came and it gave us email and instant messenger, I was able to talk directly to you regardless of where you are
Mm-hmm.
in the world, right? And so if you think of now, like the way we pay for things, like you pay corporations before you actually pay the person. If you think
In
about it,
terms of what?
in terms of like the actual transaction. So if I go to the store to buy something, I'm using a debit card.
Mm-hmm. So
So
you're gonna pay.
I'm putting that in the little chip reader, right? And then the chip reader takes the money and then pays wherever whatever store I'm in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Sometimes they
yeah,
charge a
that's true.
fee. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So all these people are getting paid before you actually pay the person. If
Right.
I want to give you money other than cash, there's really almost no way to just give you money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I
Yeah.
understand how it kind of removes the need for like the whole middleman and the blockchain verifies all transactions, so it kind of removes the need, um, or it kind of removes the need to trust where it's going. The blockchain will
Yeah.
verify everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I get all of that, but as a currency, right, to replace the dollar, I just don't. Well, first of all, let me go back to why I brought this up. Okay, before we get too deep, I brought this up because Nas, in the beginning of his verse, he mentions he says like a metaphor about Coinbase,
Mm-hmm.
because as we all know with what's been going around recently, he was one of the early investors in Coinbase prior to the IPO.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because he said that, understanding like the cultural like penetration or the impact those lyrics will have to people who are
Mm-hmm.
now buying cryptocurrency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who may not they may not be um, you know, they may not be fully educated on what they're actually doing, but
Mm-hmm.
they'll follow Nas because it's in a rap song, right?
Right.
So I started thinking like, well, why should I listen to Nas?
Mm-hmm.
Why should I listen to Nas about buying crypto? He said he's the cryptocurrency Scarface, right? Why should I listen to
Mm-hmm.
Nas? I don't know if he has crypto,
Right.
right? But he made fiat money off of a company that makes fiat money off of crypto transactions.
Mm-hmm.
So where's the crypto? You see what I mean? Like you invested dollars into a company that makes dollars off of crypto transactions. So the only value you have is in the dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Where's crypto?
Yeah. I don't know. It's
Like,
nothing's verifiable on the internet. You can just really just say anything. You know, you can really just say anything. But I mean, if he did own something, I mean, he could pump the stock just in saying it.
no, I mean
You know,
that's true, but he'd be pumping the stock of an actual like company
yeah,
that you can
hmm
buy with fiat currency, not
yeah,
Bitcoin.
yeah. That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's like, okay, if I'm listening to you to say, okay, go and buy whatever, go
hmm
buy all this crypto, but you made the money that you're telling us about with fiat currency,
yeah, yeah. But
not
but I
crypto.
can't get paid off of that.
Like,
I can't get paid off of telling you to earn the fiat currency that's available to you that's been around for years, decades, and centuries.
yeah.
Go get this new thing, and if it's exciting for people, they're more likely to do it.
Hmm.
No one's excited about go make more dollars. Go make more dollars, guys. Go to school, get a job, make some more dollars, work harder, make more dollars. Like, no, how can I make this new type of form of money that's going to make me a millionaire or a billionaire in the old currency that I'm used to? Because aren't we all just? I mean, isn't the point to buy the crypto and convert it back into actual dollars
That's
or
what I'm
whatever
getting to.
dollar? So what are we? What are we doing? What are we really
If
doing here? Is it
if
like
the
let's get on
only
this?
if the only real value is when you exchange it to like fiat currency as that we use today,
Mhm.
then why like what is the real value?
I don't know because you can't cash out until you actually cash out. I mean, and that's in everything. That's in all investments. So
Hmm.
I don't know if we're looking at long term. Even still, long term, you're still going to cash out. So I think about like buying a home and it going up in the equity going up, increasing over the years, and you want to pull equity out. Like you have to actually physically do that or sell the house to get the
Hmm.
equity. And with stocks, it's the same thing. You still have to sell the stocks in order to get the cash to
Hmm.
put it in play. Same with crypto. So I don't know.
But those are
Maybe
assets.
it's
Okay. That's
yeah.
property. You know what I mean? This is something that was literally created out of thin air,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's given the value based on opinion. Now you can say everything has that value,
Right.
and I'll give you that. But if if it's something like that, what the only tangible value of something like that is when I actually cash in.
Mm-hmm.
If I hold it until I die, then what?
Right. Yeah, there's
I
nothing.
pass it. Yeah, like I pass it on. Okay, my kids inherit the flash drive, right? And then and I'm sure we sound dumb.
Right.
I'm sure there's some people who like are like deep into blockchain and Bitcoin, and
Right.
they like, yo, these guys are ridiculous. But I'm just trying to flesh this out because you hear about it so much, and then everybody's going crazy, especially about like I get like a million questions about Dogecoin like every day, and I'm like,
Mm,
um, and it's hard to really like today I talked to our good friend Tyrone. Shout out Tyrone, and
shout
he was
out.
telling me about
Shout out the
he was
podcast.
telling me about something that just sounded really really sketchy, and it
Mm-hmm.
involved Bitcoin, and I feel like the only reason why stuff like that exists, even if people like me and you who are buying it won't use it for that, right? I feel like the only reason something like that exists is to do nefarious activities. You know what I mean? Like
Right. Right.
you want to get
Yeah.
nefarious.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's the
There's
main
been
thing.
they created a coin. I can't remember the name right now, but it was just for those things. Um, there's some particular way that Bitcoin was different in verifying certain users, but in this case they didn't verify at all. So it kind of left
Hmm.
it open to be completely free to um, exchange these currencies without anyone ever knowing. So of course that opens up to the world of crime, you know, which Bitcoin
Well,
is
yeah,
already
yes,
kind of used for.
you're
But this
avoiding
one was like
tax.
it was completely um, free from any type of regulation that Bitcoin
Hmm.
was regulated around. So um, is it? I mean, is this like just a long form rate for people just to do drugs, or buy drugs,
Uh,
or buy things that you don't want it to be traced?
Probably. I mean, there's websites where you can literally send cash in the mail for Bitcoin.
Mm,
Like I remember seeing that, almost 10 years ago. Like you can go on there and you say, I want to sell, either I want to sell or I want to buy Bitcoin at this rate. And you
right.
make you construct a scenario with your end buyer at what price, and they send you cash. They can send you cash in the mail,
Mm,
and you send them Bitcoin.
hmm.
So
Yeah.
like that is you're avoiding, like that's tax evasion right there.
Yeah. I was gonna say it has to be like a good, you know, a lot of people might be using it to evade taxes, kind of
Why not?
wash their money. Yeah.
why else would you have it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What could
Why
you
do I need to
believe in it?
convert something to Bitcoin? Like why?
Mm-hmm.
So all that I understand like his use case, but like to me, like that, like I said, art and crypto is all money laundering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, when you start seeing NFTs sell for 65 million, um, these multi-million-dollar deals, I can't help but think that's just a way to to earn a large write-off.
Yeah.
I can't help to think that. And just like it is with physical art, NFT is so crazy because you don't even have to hold it, right? You don't even have the at some point, like you can't ruin it. Like say for baseball
Hmm.
cards, for instance, if you have like a mint baseball card and it has to be kept in a certain plastic hard case, put away, and if you get one scratch on it, it ruins the value. In the case of NFT, like you can't do that. You can't ruin the value, but it
Hmm.
is still a one of one. Even with like baseball cards or Pokemon cards, you're into that too. Um, there was never a one on one. There's multiple. So I do see the value in having a one of one something that that goes up in value. But maybe I'm just too broke. I don't have enough money to hide. To be like, this NFT is
Uh,
really cracking for me right now.
I just feel like it's a way to exchange money again without the government's involvement. Now there is value in that, right? There's
Hmm.
definitely value in that. I can see how one could find value
I
in.
don't believe that, Mr. FBI, sir. If you're on this line listening, I believe in paying all my taxes.
Yes, absolutely. But I could totally see how, you know what I'm saying? If I wanted to gift you like a certain amount of money
Mhm.
without the government knowing about it, or give you access to a certain amount of money without the government knowing about it, then I could see how you would use that.
Right. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, people want to use everything they have available to them. And
Yeah.
we kind of talked about that last week. People using the tax code to lower their tax liability. And this is just another example of using something else, something new to
Mhm.
um, to reach your goals, which is to keep as much money as you earn in your pockets and out of the pockets of Uncle Sam. So
Mhm.
it's just part of it's just part of the game at this point.
What I find funny though is that, see, these things they run off of hype, right? Just like stocks, right? There's anytime there's a rumor of something, there's always a run up. And then
Mm-hmm.
once the actual event takes place, everything falls apart,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Yeah, there's no
there's
more
no
hype to
longer
push
a
it.
reason. Yeah. So I feel like
Mm-hmm.
if this does actually get adopted as some form of currency, right, or anything along those lines, um, it wouldn't be as volatile anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It would have to be stable, right? So then that pushes the hype
Mm-hmm.
out. So then what is it really worth? Because if
Mm-hmm.
if if people are willing to pay $50,000 for a coin because they believe it'll go higher, and it probably will. I'm almost certain it will.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but people are also willing to pay $900 for one share of Tesla,
Right.
which is 900 times their net income.
Mm-hmm.
And there's there's literally thousands of other companies you could buy for that make more money more consistently and faster, that won't cost you 900 times their net income.
Right. I mean,
You know what I
so
mean?
we know fundamentals don't have to make sense for
Yeah.
price to go up. Um, it's the same in real estate now. um, there's there's a there's a rush to buy real estate. Um, but I kind of understand that though because um, the old saying they're not making any more land. That's true. At some point we will run out, right? And it's not just. Uh, I think they run out of land people where people want to be, right? And that's usually like the bigger cities, the
Hmm.
city centers like L.A., New York, all these different large cities, Houston, Dallas, that type of thing. And people say now, they really believe that real estate is going to go back down, you know, and I don't see any indicators. There's just a few things, right? There's supply and demand, right? So
Hmm.
if I want to buy real estate, um, I need something to buy, right? And if there's not enough available, that automatically increases the price I'm gonna have to pay. But if so now the whole thing is the real estate will always go down, like it's cyclical. So I want to ask you a question. Do you think um, right now we have any more room to run up? All right, because it's kind of like the same as Bitcoin. There's a hype right now of
Hmm.
I'm going, I'm not going to be able to buy. So do you think there's any correlation between the hype in things like Bitcoin or real estate, uh,
Hmm.
or what do you think?
No, 100%. It's a is that um even when you look at a stock chart, right? If you look at a stock chart, all it's showing you is the relationship between cost or hype and value,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? You can clearly draw out like moving averages over time.
Right.
And then the fluctuations in price are all based on hype, news announcements, bad news, earnings, you know what I mean? So anytime anytime there's some hype, there's always a continuation of that trend because the people who weren't in before want to follow it
Mm-hmm.
because that's when that news gets to the guy who's sitting at the bar having a drink and his
Mm-hmm.
bartender is saying, "Hey man, buy some Dogecoin."
Right.
And so
I
so
heard it's going up.
yeah, so then they go do it and then they tell their friends and family about it, and creates a thing now in terms
That's when you
of
want to get out.
exactly in terms of in terms of real estate here in California, like specifically, it's a number of things, but a big part of it is due to um, like very, very specific policies that exist,
Mm-hmm.
not only at the state level, but locally, right? And because LA and San Francisco, they swallow up all of the jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just read an article that I think we talked about the other day that Apple is improving their campus in Culver City and adding 3,000 more employees with an average salary of like $180,000,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, I was mad at that.
So here's here's what
They don't,
here's what here's
they running up the price.
here's why it's things like that and then interference from the government, right? Here's why stuff like that will drive the prices up because we all know LA County in most places, or now we have statewide rent control. But prior to last year, it was mostly just LA City.
Mm-hmm.
So LA City and then any unincorporated areas, they
Right.
went along with LA City, right? So what happens is when the city needs tax dollars because these people who live in these rent controlled units never leave.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they leave? You know,
There's no reason to.
your grandmother's been living in this unit, and then when she dies, you move in. You inherit the unit, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
the landlord can't kick you out unless he can prove it in court. And do you think your average landlord who's 67 years old, lives in a house nearby that they pay like 200 grand for, and drives a dusty truck is going to take you to court and
Yeah.
spend $50,000? Do you think that would happen?
No, that's not happening.
Okay. So since these people don't leave and go out and do their own things, buy more real estate locally because they don't feel the need to leave. They spend
Mm-hmm.
their access money on other things. When these jobs come, because the city needs the revenue. So when these big companies come, like Google, like Imply Vista, Google, IMAX, YouTube, TikTok, and Culver, Apple, um, they can't hire locally because the people who live nearby are being subsidized, right? So they have to hire people from other places. Now, in order for those people to come out here, they have to pay them. They
Mm-hmm.
not only have to pay them for their job because they're specialized, right? They have to pay them to relocate.
Yep.
And if there aren't that many available units anyway, because the government is controlling the amount that's available,
Mm-hmm.
that increases the demand for units. And what happens is these people they end up being able to pay whatever it takes to get into an available unit. So if the rent is 1,500 and a guy comes in, he's willing to pay 17 just to get in, then they'll get in.
Yep.
The next owner sees that and says, okay, now I can push the market.
Mhm.
Now I can push it to 19. And that drives up rent. Because you got to think, if you're paying 3,000 employees an average of $180,000, that's probably over $600 million, if I'm not mistaken.
To do to see how much.
180,000 times 3,000, $540 million. So if you take that and then you look at how much inventory on a dollar basis, like how much inventory is actually on the market. Is
Talking
it
about right now?
504? It just period in that moment. Is there $540 million worth of inventory
No,
near that area?
no.
So let's take a quarter of it, because say only a quarter of them actually go out and buy real estate. So you can divide that by four, 135 million. Is there actually $135 million worth of inventory on the market?
No.
So that creates a huge demand for property, and the
Mm-hmm.
prices rise. People who can not only afford the rents, right, but the people who can go out and afford the higher prices in real estate. Because if it's two employees, they're making almost 400 grand a year. So a home that might be 800 to a million, they can live in that, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
If they got to pay an extra 200-300 over, so what,
Yeah, I
right?
just did a little math on it. For a person is making 180,000, you're making about 15,000 a month. And the typical person, they say you want to spend about 30% of your monthly income, about 33% of your monthly income,
Mm-hmm.
going towards rent or mortgage, right? And that number comes out to 4,900, about close to $5,000. So you basically pump um, new
Half a
employees
billion
that are
dollars, bro.
able, new employees from wherever that are able to pay at least $5,000 a month in rent. And the reality is when you're coming to a new city, you're trying to get the most for your money, but you're also not trying to spend all your money, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can allocate $5,000 to rent, that gives you, a pretty good, a lot of different choices,
Yeah,
and if you have to absolutely live there to get close to your job, you're willing to pay a premium so you can accomplish that, right?
absolutely.
Um, I just put a new client in a new property, well, not new property, but their new home, and their whole thing. She works in tech, and she wanted to be closer to this particular company, right? And with the market being absolutely crazy, we had to pay, a premium to get her there, right?
Yes.
Because her
Mm-hmm.
use case is different. Her use case is I have the money to pay for it, and I want to be close to my job. I'll pay X
I'll
amount
pay
to be
extra.
there,
Yep.
right?
100%.
Um, the other thing is for people who've already been there, right, in LA, who haven't had any type of increase in income for several years, maybe 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, a few decades, there's
Mm-hmm.
no way you can keep up with the market.
No.
It's no way. So um, it's it's not too many things you're able to do. If we want to live, if everybody wants to really, champion capitalism, you have to be able to also know when it's time to go, right?
Yeah.
So you can get more for your money, right? So if you've been making, X amount of money for the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, is more unlikely that you're gonna double that the next year, right? On your eighth year, your ninth year, your 10th year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially depending on what industry you're in. So you have to make a real choice to figure out what can I do with the income that I have that can allow me to get more for my money. Now, when I say that, everyone's not able to do that.
Yeah.
Everyone's not able to do that. So, um, but you have to make real choices. You have to make real choices. That's going to be the best for your family. And
Hmm.
with the competition of so many people, and just an example, who can pay the rents, can afford to pay the rents. Um, because that's the thing. A lot of people say, "Who's going to pay this rent?" Just because you've been there for 20 years, 30 years, and the rent is, the economy has pushed forward and moved forward. Um, just because you don't know, just because you can't pay for the rent, or you don't know 10 people around you who can pay for the rent, doesn't mean someone
Yeah.
doesn't have the funds to do it. So I think often at times we don't have enough data, enough real data around it to make real decisions. We go off the data of, what we experience day to day, and what the closest 3 or 4 or 5 people around us experience.
Hmm.
And that's not a good collection of data to make your decisions. So,
No, no. But I think also a big part of that is because this is why, and we're gonna get canceled again. I swear every episode we're gonna get canceled. This
I've been
but
drinking. I think I'm a little buzzed.
I'm definitely. Um, this is why rent control doesn't work. But see, and that's why I said like a big part of it has to do with our politicians. I'm not taking sides. I'm not saying who's right and who's wrong. Rent control policies do not work, but local and state politicians will tell you otherwise, right? They'll say, "Hey, I got your back. I'll make sure that your landlord can never evict you
Mm-hmm.
ever." Right? But then they'll turn around and make a deal with the company to bring them here and bring jobs here. And then
Mm-hmm.
if that brings higher paying jobs here that require advanced degrees that people who live locally don't have because they're being subsidized.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you said, right? If if I'm looking at my circle and we all grew up in rent controlled apartments, and the reason why we're there is to keep our overhead low so we can have money to spend on other things. Now, unless you're someone, I'm not saying that's everyone, okay? Everyone doesn't do that. But when you look at the numbers, if the government is saying, I got you, and your rent will never change, chances are you will never leave.
Mm-hmm.
And you won't really do anything to better your situation because you don't have to. I don't have to go do this. My rent $300.
Mm-hmm. And it's tough. It's tough to get away from that. Yeah. But when you live in states like California, you can't just sit on your laurels here. It's just you just can't.
No.
You have to
But our
be willing. You have to
politicians,
be ready to move.
the politicians will tell you that you can and then go and make a deal, right?
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom did it a couple years ago when he was making the push for statewide rent control and
Mm-hmm.
trying to allocate so many dollars for affordable housing. But then he goes and makes a deal with Apple for $2 billion.
Right. Right. So
And I'm
you
not
you
making
can't
this
have
up.
you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't bring
No.
more dollars into the market that's gonna generate higher rents, right? Because people really want the money spent in the city, right?
Yes.
They want the money spent in the city. So when you go spend your dollars at the grocery store, that's taxed. When you go out and buy a new property, right? New money, new family, young families, they buy new properties, not necessarily new properties, excuse me,
They
but
buy
they
another property.
they buy a property, right?
Mhm.
And when you're a new person, you buy a property, that means you're getting taxed at today's rates, right?
Mhm.
So that's income for the city. All the older people who've owned homes for 10, 20, 30 years, they still have the tax base from 30 years ago,
Mhm.
right? So they're not generating more money for the city.
Mhm.
So which is why you want new people to come to your city, um, spend their money in the stores, local stores, and buy housing, because you're going to generate more money for the city. Older people who've been in the city, I'm not talking about physically aged, but people who have been there
Mhm.
for 10, 20, 30 years, most likely as you age, you're not going to spend more money. You start drawing back on spending your money,
Mhm.
right? Because you're going into retirement. Who spend their money the most? Young people, right? The demographic that's 18 to 34. New families who are having new kids. They're gonna go buy new strollers. You're gonna buy baby clothes. They're going to want certain things. So it's a benefit to have new people come to the city. But you can't say, I want new people to come to the city. And at the same time, I want to forever subsidize people who've been here too. It just, the numbers just won't work. It just won't
No.
work. Right. And when you talk about making more affordable housing, um, I mean, there's so much around that, right? It's so much around making new affordable housing, right? The first thing is actually having someone to build it, right? If I'm a builder, what do I get out of making affordable housing, right? Because this is we want to make profit, right?
Hmm.
Uh, Everyone wants to make profit, so why wouldn't you think the builder wants to make profit? This is their job, right? So they want to build something and they want to sell it or rent it for more than what they bought it, right? That's simple economics, right?
Hmm.
So if I want to build something and the city says, hey, I really want you to make this affordable housing. And you say, no, that's actually not going to make me money. I have to make X, Y, and Z. I got to sell it at this. The rents need to be this. It just doesn't pencil, doesn't make sense. Well, we're going to subsidize you to build, 10% of those units you're building. Just make them affordable housing. I'll give you, tax breaks for you to do that. Builder says, okay, I'll do that. You build a 100-unit building, and now 10 of them are affordable housing. Now, as a politician, I can go out and say, hey, look, guys, look, we have new affordable housing
Yeah.
that's coming in this area, 10 units. It's like, come on, like, really?
Oh
Really? I mean,
man.
what are we really doing? So, I mean, there's so much political um, tomfoolery around affordable housing. They use a Biden term.
Tomfoolery. Wow, we getting old, man.
Man, it just I forgot where I was going with that, but um, okay, so that's one thing, right? And then the cost to actually build the property. Lumber is shot out the roof, right?
Hmm.
To actually build things is too expensive.
Hmm.
Which is another reason why the property has to sell for a certain amount or it has to rent for a certain amount.
Hmm.
So, I think it's an example of politicians wanting to have, wanting to have, their cake and eat it too. They can look
Well,
like the good guy,
they want
and
votes.
play both angles.
Yeah, they want votes. They need votes. It's their job. If you flip burgers at Burger King, your job is to flip burgers.
Hmm.
That's what you come in and do every day. If
Right.
you're a politician, your job is to get votes.
Stay
It's
in
that
power.
simple. Yeah,
Yep.
that's it. Your job is to get votes and toe the company line, right? So whatever comes down from the top, you have to carry out, regardless of how you feel about it.
Hmm.
If you have aspirations beyond where you're currently at, you have to toe the company line. To hopefully
Hmm.
one day get that call that you could be on the ticket, to be a president, a
Yeah.
presidential candidate.
You see, Kamala Harris kind of walk back in that there is no racism in America.
No, I did not. I did not see that. I did not. Um, Honestly,
uh,
I haven't. You know what's funny, man? And I knew it would be like that. But once I know we shouldn't be talking about politics because people always assume you on one side or the other. You
they
can't
always
just
say,
be objective.
yeah, you can't be. No, no, not
Um,
anymore. Somebody's gonna take this clip and
yeah.
flame it.
I mean, hey, that makes us popular.
They're
But
against affordable housing.
yeah. um, I haven't really paid attention, and only because the last 4 years have only been about getting the previous president out.
Right.
Now that he's out, there's nothing. I think Joe Biden's been outside twice,
Hmm. Right.
and nobody cares that he's only been outside twice
Hmm.
because you just don't have the other guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I haven't really even I haven't even really been paying attention to it. Like I really just been
Yeah.
focusing on other stuff.
Yeah. I just seen that come up today, and I was just like, oh, okay. There's another guy too. He's a Republican guy, black guy. I can't remember his name. Um, but he spoke at the RNC, and he was talking the
I
same
think I
thing.
know you're talking about. Yeah,
I can't
I
remember
think
his
I know.
name.
Hmm.
He looked like Franklin Turtle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I think it's dope to have. I think it's dope to have a female in the White House. I think that was
Oh
long
yeah,
overdue,
one hundred
right?
percent.
But I would be I would be lying 100% if I said I knew about anything they were doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't, and I think they're doing a good job of um, not putting a lot of that information out.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all kind of like okay with not being on the roller coaster anymore. I think we're all kind of okay with being like having this sigh of relief of like, okay,
Yeah,
I don't have to look the next dumb thing that happened or what was said,
yeah,
or it's
because
just like
it was
just make
it
my
was getting
politics boring
crazy.
again, you know.
Yes.
Make my politics boring again, you know.
Yeah.
Old white guy in the White House
Hmm.
doing president things and you know saying things and saying speeches.
He make you feel like you could just stop by and he's at home. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, yo, is Joe home? And let's go. Let's go see if Joe
Right.
home today.
But in general, yeah, we should. I am taking a break, a mental break from politics. But yeah, we should be on his head just like everyone else.
Hmm.
I'm always looking for something to come down that's going to benefit, particularly the middle class. You know, because as a young adult and all the way into adulthood, I've never seen anything that really helped the middle class. And this is people who aren't super poor or struggling, but they have a little money. They trying to get their stuff together. They're trying to
Hmm.
move, have some type of upward mobility, and it just seems like there's nothing for them. You know,
Well, it's
and that's us because I consider myself middle class. So
I think it's too it's depending on who you are. I'm trying to choose my words carefully. Depending on who you are, right? I think that's a tall task
mm-hmm,
because um if you if you focus your efforts on them, which ultimately would I believe would strengthen, would only strengthen like us um as a nation
mm-hmm,
financially,
yeah,
but it would also strengthen our economy.
mm-hmm,
But it's tough to do that because those are the people who pay the bulk of the taxes.
right, 100%, yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? In terms of beyond people who own businesses
mm-hmm,
and the millionaires, right? Because in California, I think like 41% of our tax dollars come from like 2% of the population,
mm-hmm,
right? So the remaining portion of that, a large portion of that comes from the middle class,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
right? So those people have to basically, along with the other 2%, those people have to carry the load of the entire state,
yeah,
So um, it's tough because you want to push them to do better, but you're going to do things to keep them there because the state needs the money.
mm-hmm,
That's just what it is. Like this is everything is a business. It's all economics, right? And I think that gets overlooked um, a lot. Like we're all employees of the business of the United States of America.
yeah,
It's why we have a social security number. That's our tax
mm-hmm,
ID.
mm-hmm,
So um, it's difficult. I think a lot of that information is there. It's just on you to go ahead and act on it.
right,
You know. So going back before I go there though, because I got something to add to that. Going back to your question about the real estate, if I see real estate, rising and coming down, I do think in areas where jobs are pretty much like there's like a hub, like a central hub for jobs. I
mm-hmm,
think those markets are remain strong because even if the Federal Reserve raises rates, they can still afford to live there.
yeah. Yeah, I heard somebody say today that if they raise rents or if they raise interest rates, people would stop buying. And I don't think that's true. Actually, I think that was Dave Ramsey. And if it went up from, let's say we had 2.9%, percent. If it went up to 4%, 5%, people would stop buying. And I don't think that's true.
Well,
Um,
depending on where you live,
they
definitely.
they would be able to afford maybe a little bit less, but I think they will continue to still buy unless you like
Um,
completely pushed out the market. If you're on a lower end, maybe you're just barely qualifying for real estate or qualifying to buy a property, then yeah, I think you'll automatically be pushed out.
yeah, but those are the people who are buying. You know,
Well,
it's the
it
people.
just
Just think about 2007. Think about 2007 and 2008, where you can get a house off the street. They had a no income, no job loan,
mm-hmm,
right? I can just literally go and grab somebody off the street and say and put you in a house,
mm-hmm,
even if you didn't have good credit, right?
right,
You know what I'm saying? So think about it. Anytime the money is too cheap or widely available, you're expanding the buyer pool. So the people
mm-hmm,
who are trying to buy initially were people who probably couldn't afford, say, 800 to $1 million at
mm-hmm,
5%. But now that rate has been cut in half, and even just 2%, like even just a 2% cut in terms of interest rates could allow you to borrow like 10 to 15% more money.
yeah, that's true.
You know what I
But
mean?
you think about someone who can afford to buy, a 900 million, $1.2 million property. Uh, More than likely, they're not at the top of what they can afford. That's for people who like
Mm,
getting in the first time
I don't
buyers who
know.
go to the top.
I don't know, man. Not out
But
here. Out here, that's what it costs
I know
to
that's what it
to
costs.
get a
But
starter home.
I think people who are qualified, they're a little bit more conservative and going to their top price. At least that's been my experience dealing with clients
Mm,
who are in that price range. Um, they could afford more, but they rather be a little bit more conservative, which makes sense. Which makes sense because um, when you make a certain amount of money, you have more choices, and
mm,
and you don't want to over leverage yourself. It's very, I think it's well, I know they're out there, but usually when people are wanting to be some type of first time buyer and go buy real estate, they're looking at the most that they can afford, right?
mm,
It's like when people go to the dealership and the dealer says, "Okay, you're looking for a new car. Okay, I can put you in it." Well, the first thing they ask you is how much do you want to pay a month, right?
mm.
And you tell that person, "I want to pay $600 a month." Okay, let me tell you what you can get into, right? That's people actually looking at how much they can afford based on all their liabilities they have and what's left over. That's normal for most people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people who do make more than what's needed, they have the choice to, you know, not hit their top their top the top amount that they can actually afford. So I mean, this is all speculation. I have no data beyond this.
I mean,
I have
normally,
I have
no,
no data to support.
I do think there's a large group of people who do operate that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because even just in terms of the down payment, now of course that depends on where you live, right? Because that would determine how much you would need to put down if you get government financing or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, but normally I would just agree, but houses out here are selling for 80,000, 120,000 over asking.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen by we're looking for the least amount to spend.
Yeah, well, no, not in this market.
Yeah, like
Yeah, this market is completely different.
you don't waive your appraisal to you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're doing that because you're trying to get in. You just need to get in, whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
If I got to pay more, I want to get into a house.
Yeah, because
Um,
for people now in this market, their use case is different. Like we talked about this. If I want to be closer to my job, that's paying me 200,000, 250,000, and it's going to make my life better. Now I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, there's people right now that you have to pay, and when you in this market, people understand that paying over market value is not like a dumb thing. It's you're paying you're basically paying the future value up front, right? And if buyers if buyers decide that this property is worth this to me, then that's what it's worth. It's like if
Mm-hmm.
I had a an orange and I said I have this orange and I want to sell it for $10, and you say that orange I can get that orange for $5, but you're in a market where there aren't oranges available, and I only have the one orange, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
offering $10, and somebody else comes and says, "Well, I'll offer you 15," then that's what that thing is worth.
Mm-hmm.
So we can do all we can to look at previous comps or previous sales, but previous sales don't dictate future value, right? It's only like a small indicator of what we think things should be worth. So in a market where there's buyers, more buyers than there are sellers, um, that value fluctuates. So we're trying to figure that out as we go, and you can see it in the amount of offers that you receive. If
Mm-hmm.
I receive 10, 10 to 12 offers on a property, and they're all 50,000 over asking, um, that property is not overvalued, or they're not paying more than what the property is worth. They're paying what the market is gardening for that property, or what the market is um, what the market says the property is worth
Mm-hmm.
in real time, right? There's cases where um, you can basically tell the appraiser, if I have so many properties, if I have, it used to be you can have like a minimum three offers. You can show the appraiser and say, hey, this I have, I know the property is marketed for 500 or 700,000, but I have offers at 750,000. I have at least three, four offers. You used to be able to show the appraiser those comps basically of people willing to buy it, and you know, they can change they can use that in their appraisal
Mm-hmm.
because it shows the market in real time. So I don't know if they do that anymore, and I could be talking on my ass, but it used to be
I
that
mean,
way.
it
You
doesn't
know?
matter though if you can waive the appraisal. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
the property appraises for. If I'm willing to say I don't care what it appraises for, I'll give you an extra hundred
Right.
fifty,
Yeah.
$200,000. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like you're paying for something just to have it. Now, I do think there are specific reasons and specific instances where that's okay, but in large, like I think that's weird.
It's weird to pay five. What's it? 50,000 for a coin, an internet coin.
I know it's all the
Like
same
all
to
this,
me. It's all
like
the same.
I think the
It's all the
difference
same to
is,
me.
it's
It's all the
like this is
same. Like
this is all just weird.
why would I go pay? It's like okay, the PlayStation 5 comes out, and if you want one today, it's $1,000.
Yeah.
So, but we all know that the value of this thing is 499. At least the market price, right?
Hmm.
It's 499. And then once we get 2 years in the cycle, it'll get discounted
Hmm.
to 299 or something.
But that's based on
No,
your
it'll
previous
happen.
experience, the previous experience in the PlayStation market.
No, it'll happen because they're going to release new hardware. Like that's what they do.
Hmm.
They reproduce things. They make it when it's expensive, and then as time goes on, it gets less expensive to make it. Just like TVs, right?
Hmm.
TVs come out, they'll be $10,000 for the new, QZ LED TV,
Right.
and then 3 years go by, it's at Costco for 1,500.
Right. Right. That's when I
You know what
come
I
in.
mean? So,
That's when I come in. Yeah. I knew you would come down.
so like
Yeah.
I understand why someone would go and pay more for that. Like I get that 100%. I'm just talking about certain like very very specific economic factors that exist that could potentially lead to things turning the other way. Because if you
Mhm.
can't borrow, right, it doesn't matter what you think your home is worth. if nobody can actually qualify to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And if we allow because we they've printed trillions of dollars, right? We're already seeing inflation happen. And they're saying they're going to go ahead and try to taper it off once once the unemployment rate continues to rise. They have tools, as they say. They
Mm-hmm.
have tools to kind of taper it down to regulate the effects of it. But if our economy is running rampant and things are just exploding, right? Because they printed all this money, and now things are way more expensive because the dollar is worth less. And then you go and raise rates to try and slow down spending and all this other stuff. You can get a period where everything is expensive, right? And the money is still relatively cheap, but it's still not cheap enough for people to go actually borrow money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If a house is 1.2 million today, and then in 3 years' time, that same house is $4 million, and they say, okay, we're going to raise rates to 5% to taper off inflation. Like, well, who's going to borrow? Who's going to borrow $4 million at 5%?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's not that somebody might not have the money. It's just too expensive,
I
right? And
can.
so that's when prices begin to, like, that's how I'm looking at it. And the Fed has already said that they're going to raise rates in a minimum 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So before I do anything, I'm gonna wait until they actually raise rates to see how the market reacts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for me, that's
It,
that's what I would do.
it's so interesting that rates are low. So the companies that are coming in, like your Apples and Googles, they're coming in. They because we never think about it as in terms of companies are also able to borrow money at these low interest rates, right?
Lower, yeah.
Which or some, yeah, sometimes nothing. So they're able to, you know, hire more people. Like in the case of Culver City, Apple
Mm-hmm.
have 3,000 more people coming in. They're able to kind of push the market because they can borrow at very low interest rates to hire people. That's always the case, right? If the interest rates are low, I can invest more into my business and hire more
Mm-hmm.
people and create more jobs. Um, but so it sounds like you're saying there's an end to that at some point.
Yeah, because they won't print
Once you raise
trillions of dollars.
rates, people will
Like,
stop they'll stop hiring more people, and then the economy will crash.
I'm not saying it's gonna crash. I'm saying there's gonna be a point, like, if we were looking at a chart, it would be what's called parabolic, right? Where it's
Mm-hmm.
just going straight up, and nothing is ever just going straight up. So to
Mm-hmm.
think that things will just continue to, like, how, even if
Right.
not even mentioning all the economic factors, just thinking about it in, like, in theory,
Mm-hmm.
things would just always go up. So you mean to tell me they just go up every year until you die? Like, that's not economics.
Right.
There's very specific components involved that create these things. One of them
Mm-hmm.
being them printing trillions of dollars to
Right.
get people to spend it, right? So if they get people to spend the money, the jobs have to hire people to take on the load, right? In turn, they they absorb a large portion of the unemployed, creating competition for the jobs, meaning employers have to pay more to employees.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have to pay more to the employees, the cost of their goods increase to pay the new salaries,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's then passed down to, you know, the regular consumer. Like, that's the whole point of stimulus. Well, if you continue to do that, things get really expensive. Now,
Yep.
until they absorb whatever their desired unemployment rate is, then they're going to raise rates. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Jerome Powell has literally said that.
Right.
He said we're printing money until we get the rate of unemployment that we desire. At that point, we'll raise rates. So knowing that, right? Knowing that a person who qualifies at 3.2%, to buy a $1.2 million home. If
Mm-hmm.
rates go up to 5%, that's not the same.
No.
You now qualify for like 870,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's, and the only reason why something is worth what it's worth is if somebody's willing to pay you for it. Unless
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about like income property, where you can add value through in the increase in income.
Mm-hmm.
You can increase rents or get new tenants or whatever. But in terms of like single family homes, where it's just comparative or comparables, that's a little bit different. So I'm not saying it won't. I'm not saying it's going to crash and fall apart. I just know that this is an obstacle that exists, whether it be three
Right.
years, 4 years. This is an obstacle, and we've never been through that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, for me, it would be tough to make a long term decision, like borrowing $1 million to buy a home, knowing that we have this obstacle a couple years out.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what you have to, again, that's what you have to deal with when you're making these decisions. And we talked about on a lot on the last podcast, or the actually the one before it, staying disciplined, right? When you have your set criteria and you're developing your discipline, you will be wrong a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be wrong more than you're right, right? But the point is, if this doesn't fit what I would like to see, for me, if it doesn't fit what I would like to see, then I can't do it. I can't justify it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And because I would hate, being that we were involved in 2007, 2008, and seeing those people who paid six, $700,000 for their homes, only to have their home be worth, $250,000.
Mm-hmm.
Like, three, like what?
I
Like,
mean, in some cases, those homes also weren't around some type of economic base, right?
exactly.
That
Yeah.
garnered any type of that type of income for people who
Mm-hmm.
to live in those certain areas. So another thing we don't consider now is that the pandemic changed a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was the ability to work from home. There's a lot of companies that are willing to have their employees work from home permanently or going into the office maybe 2 or 3 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is going to change the game for homes that were considered too far to commute to. Now they're an option for many buyers. So I know we talk about um, real estate that doesn't make sense if it goes up if people in those areas can't afford those homes because they don't have the jobs,
Mm-hmm.
right? But now people are able to move a little bit further out from their where their job is because with the ability to work from home. So I think we're going to start to see some of these different infill areas that weren't desirable because it's just too far from wherever they
Mm-hmm.
work now be an option. And I think it will push up, certain suburbs that are not so much in the city, but on the outskirts. That's where property will continue to go up.
Oh, 100%.
Now
100%.
we don't know. See, I agree that I feel like in history has showed that things don't go up forever, right? But we also have been saying that for 8 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're we're in a situation right now where everything is different. And you mentioned there's been a lot of money pumped into the system, right, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
stimulus. But when it comes to qualifying for homes, these are people who show the income to qualify for these homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you don't just get a home just because the stimulus pumped. you,
No, no, no,
um,
no. But you can have, it's not so, say, especially if you're coming from a different home. If you're coming from a home that you already sold, right?
mhm,
Then you're coming with massive equity.
mhm,
Like one of Vita's friends who lives in the Bay, he bought his condo for $110,000,
mhm,
and he just sold it for like a half a million,
right,
right? So he's coming with a down payment of $350,000,
mhm,
not to
mhm,
mention any other money that he had saved.
right,
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So there's it works in two ways. Like it's that there's people who have retirement savings because they've been on their jobs for so long.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you have the capital, and not to mention people who have family money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot
You
of
know,
that.
who especially out here, like they have family money and they have a
Mm-hmm.
trust, or the parents gave them some money. Like it's there's many factors. Like it didn't just affect the home price on the back end, like when you go to buy. It also affected things on the front end because now all your equities are worth more. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So your retirement accounts are worth more. Your like all your 401ks, all that. You have
Mm-hmm.
way more money in there. And if you had a house before, it's worth more.
Mm-hmm.
So you can come in potentially if you've been on a job for 10 years working and working and working. And even if you had the income, but you didn't necessarily have the down payment, just because of where you lived and where you wanted to buy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the type of loan product that would be available to you. But then this happens. Then the market goes up, you know. Like even if you just invested in Tesla, like Tesla's up like 1,800% in the last year.
Yeah.
That's a lot. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
all of
So
the percentages.
yeah, so you got to think about it. It affects other things. Like it's not just the house. Like there's people coming in with cash. That's how they're able
Mm-hmm.
to pay over asking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm not saying like again, I'm not saying like
Yeah,
it
because if people don't know, but once you waive the appraisal, which we didn't kind of touch on, if you're
yeah.
waiving the appraisal, the bank is only going to lend up to the appraised amount of the
Mm-hmm.
property. So let's say the property appraised for $1 million, and you offered 1,000,005, or let's say a million 50,000. The bank is going to loan on that $1 million appraisal, and then you'll have to actually bring in the additional 50,000 in cash. So that's what's happening now, which is a benefit to selling your property and using the cash to buy your next property, or the benefit of
Mm-hmm.
having coming from money. Um, yeah, I won't even go into that. I'm not gonna go into that.
I think we already kind of touched on it the
Yeah,
last
and I don't want to.
episode, but
I don't want to keep harping
um,
on that, but
yeah. So I mean, it's
but that's
those are
that's the
things.
benefit of being able to uh, participate in the game, because once you um, once you move forward decades later, you're able to utilize the money you've had by participating in the real estate game.
Yeah,
So we still have that available to us now, um, in a different way. So well, in a way that it's more accessible, right, and not
yeah.
denied. So we appreciate that.
I mean, even I think about things differently because I'm always looking at it from like an investment perspective. Like, how is the
Mm-hmm.
money working, right? I know the average person is not going to think about it that way, and I don't expect them to.
Mm-hmm.
So, if someone doesn't see if someone doesn't see it the way I see it, like that's fine. It's just how my brain operates, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
to me, I don't get it, but that doesn't mean that I'm right. I'm willing to be wrong because I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so, learning how money works, learning how to invest, these are things that people aren't necessarily taught. They unless you have someone to teach you, right? And um and I say that to say because a big argument amongst a lot of people, especially people who are famous and have a voice, is don't go to college because they don't teach you how to um, invest and be entrepreneurs and all these types of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you, do you feel like uh, the education system is flawed, especially the HBCU system, because they don't teach you how to do these things?
Mm, no, I think it's working exactly how it's supposed to work. Uh, the system of sending people to any type of education, um, any type of education system, you want the person to go there and learn X, Y, and Z. so they can enter the workforce and have some type of um, some type of income that can sustain their livelihood. I think that's a good thing. Um, Once you've established yourself in the marketplace with a job, you're going to start to accumulate money into your 401k, or you're going to accumulate money um, to qualify for your first house, where you can now earn equity, and that equity can build. So these are all good things. I think investing at its core is investing the the vesting the extra money you have,
Mhm.
right? Um, a lot of people think of investing as investing any money you come up on, and try to make that into make it double or triple. Um, so I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing if you're going to go to any higher education. Uh, get your education, get into the workforce, make money, establish yourself in the workforce, and then invest the money you have. Like, investing is not going anywhere. Um, it's I think it's on your own time to learn how to invest. But
Mhm.
I can tell you now, it's going to it's not going to serve you to know how to invest at a high level without any money, right? So this
You the billionaire investor with $600.
right.
It's You got to keep building, bro. Like it's gonna take some time.
So it's so for someone to say they don't teach investing in school, why go to school? You shouldn't go to school. Um, I think it's ignorant. It's putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah,
You don't have any money to invest. Why would you need to learn to invest? So
no, I agree.
if the message is um, don't get after you go to college and you establish yourself in the workforce with using your degree to get there, don't get stuck in the day-to-day things of going to work, going home, taking care of the kids, taking care of the family, and not educate yourself in investing, then I can get behind that message. But
Hmm.
these are most likely kids that are 18 years old, maybe 18 to 21, and they have a decision to go to school or not go to school. And you're telling a kid basically that school is not going to teach you anything about what I'm doing about investing. Um, you should go do that. It's like this person's eating noodles. You
Yeah.
tell me they're gonna make a fortune over investing, you know, $3 and $4, into currency. Like, what are we doing really? I
Into
remember I had
Kryptons. They
yeah,
buying Kryptons.
Kryptons. Man, it's funny. Like
uh,
right before maybe like 2 years ago, somebody referred uh this young kid to me, and he wanted to get into real estate. And I said, oh, okay, cool. I had him come by the office, and made an appointment. We sat down and talked to him, and I just wanted to get an idea of what he wanted to do. And he was 19 years old, going to school, and he wanted to get into real estate. And I said, okay, great. I can show you exactly how to get your real estate license. That's no problem. Um, but first, I said, where is your income coming from? He had like I said, where's your income coming from? He had a part-time job, and he was making a certain amount of money.
mhm,
I said, okay, how much money are you making? He told me how much money he was making. I said, what are your liabilities? Right? What is your rent? Um, do you have a car? What are you paying for? Um, he tells me his liabilities. So I'm looking at how much he's making minus his liabilities and how much he has left in capital,
mhm,
right? This is to invest in himself, right? Getting his real estate license because it costs money to get the books, etc. And it was a small amount of money, right, to invest in himself. It's not that it couldn't be done, but it wasn't. It would take time. Also, he had certain debt that he had to pay down.
mhm,
So I said, the first thing you want to do is get all of the overtime you can get to start paying down this debt. Because the reality is, once you get into real estate, it might be months where you don't get paid, especially if you're just starting.
Might.
So
What do you mean might? You being
you
generous.
won't
Yeah.
get paid. All
Like,
right,
and guarantee it's gonna be a couple months where you're not gonna see a paycheck.
right. You won't get paid. So what am I doing here? I'm trying to tell this young kid who's 19, who's looking at real estate as the place that you're gonna blow up. Right, you're gonna make all this money. You're gonna get all these new cars, all these new clothes, all the women's, right? And and you're gonna be on. But I want to let him know that there's steps to this, right? So anyway, I'm telling him, we want to pay down this debt, get all the different all the overtime you can and start paying down this debt, because once you go into working for yourself, you don't want all these different liabilities you have to pay for, right? It would have been nice if he had no car, or a car that he had to actually pay on. Um, and then I said, he's talking about quitting school. I said, why? Like, you're 19 years old. Like, finish your education. You'll be done in 5 years. You'll be way younger than me, and you'll have 5 years worth of real estate experience and a degree,
Mhm.
right? Why we can't walk and chew bubble gum at the same time? So I
Because
said,
entrepreneurship.
man, everybody want to be a businessy businessman or women. It's like come on, like we can do two things at once. So um, I'm not gonna tell this kid, yeah, quit your job and work real estate. For me, I'll make you a millionaire. Like, that would be um, so disingenuous, and um, it'll be like a flat out lie, right?
Hmm.
So, but I think we get into um, your ability to I don't know. I guess we get into that's a personal thing, right? A personal
Hmm.
thing for me, that I'm not going to do that. But yeah, so HBCUs and different these different colleges aren't there to teach you investing, right? They're there to teach you how to position yourself to make income, so you can
Hmm.
have money to invest and do these things, buy a house. And it's okay if you don't do that at 18 or at 20 or at 21. Like, get yourself established first. So that's my rant. I forget what the question was.
I mean, that's basically what it was, and I brought that up because um, a very well known radio personality. I've heard him say this many times, right? And they even had a whole discussion about it on the show. But
Mhm,
recently, it came up again, and he said how he didn't want to bring his daughter to an HBCU because they didn't have a real estate investing program. And he's like, "Yo, they gotta get it together because they don't have a real estate program." And I'm like, first of all, you sound crazy, but
you must say
he
dumb.
yeah, you sound crazy, and it's like, well, I feel like school will only teach you to be workers or something,
Mm,
and he's like, so I had to bring my daughter to um, one of these private colleges because they're the only ones who have real estate curriculum,
mhm.
right? So he's like, well, why don't they teach real estate? And he's someone who's in real estate, right?
Yeah.
Supposedly. So
So
my
I'm gonna send
question
my
to
kids
him,
to go do real estate that I'm already doing. Okay.
my
What's your
question to
question?
him would be, why don't you volunteer? Why don't you get off your ass and volunteer and go to an HBCU and teach real
Hmm.
estate? That'll answer
Mm.
your question.
Yeah, that's too hard though. I mean, that's too hard. That requires work. That
Because
requires like the work you want to put in to see the change you want to see.
the reason why these other schools have a real estate program and they're a private college is because they probably have someone who's alumni, right? Who's in the alumni, who's had much success, maybe maybe second or third generation,
Hmm.
who doesn't mind coming back to offer their time
Yep.
to teach.
And or money.
They,
That's a huge thing right now with
they
HBCUs.
have the money to
People
pay
actually
them.
people actually coming back and giving money back to
Yeah.
the college.
So I think I think a lot of times it sucks that so many like there's so many famous people who are just there's so many people who have a platform that are just dumb loud and famous.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I hate to call people dumb, but I feel like sometimes you have to say it in order for the message to sink in. Like
Mm-hmm.
just because you're visible doesn't mean you're an expert in anything you do. You're just visible.
Right.
Like I saw
Mm-hmm.
I saw a video the other day. Um, I'm not gonna say their names, but I saw a video the other day, and it was a group of people in a room, and there was a guy who was going around the room saying, "Yo, I got the top expert in crypto. I got the top expert in stocks. I got the top expert in real estate." And he was going on, I got the top thought leader, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, says who?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you,
Yeah.
first of all, like, you can't be the top person in real estate and you're a
Mm-hmm.
residential agent.
Mm-hmm.
Real estate, it goes far beyond buying a house.
Yeah. It's so much.
There's people who trade $1 billion properties every day. If you don't believe me, go on Instagram and look at Traded NY. That's the username. Go to at Traded NY or at
Mm-hmm.
Traded LA and look at the value of some of these properties that trade hands. And you tell me, one, if they look like us, right? And then two, if they sell houses.
Mm-hmm. Which is
But
why I'm confused about when people say you should do real estate, right? Which I have a
they don't
problem
know
with
what the hell they're
because
talking about.
you work in real estate. You don't do real estate. Um, but it's just so much that goes with real. I mean, you mentioned residential. We mentioned commercial, um, mortgages, title, escrow, um,
Development.
development, property management. Like, where are you talking about? They don't have classes on real estate. Like, it's such a broad term, right? It's
You
like
want to
it's like
send
if I go and I say like they don't have classes on plants. It's like, well, what plants are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? It's like it's just so much that encompass what real estate, what the term real estate means, right? And I think we just got to start there, like, because you don't have to be a fix and flipper. You don't have to be a wholesaler. Like, you
no.
can start an escrow company, right? You
There you
can
go.
start it's just so many different things you can do, and I wish people would take more than a look at the industry of real estate beyond I can make a lot of money, because it
But
usually
it's
stops there.
it's
I'm gonna do real estate to make a lot of money.
it's hard. It's hard to do that when you're looking through the veil of social media
Yeah, yeah,
because the
it
people
is.
they're learning from are on social media. But
Mm-hmm.
what often gets overlooked is that these people are in the business of social media. Everything
Yeah.
else is extra.
Mm-hmm.
The wholesale business, that's extra. The whatever it is they're doing, all that is extra. Merch, whatever, that's it's extra. They're in the
Mm-hmm.
business of social media marketing.
Yeah.
And it's hard to see through that because even the people who are selling you that believe that they're experts in what they're talking
Mm-hmm.
about.
No, they really,
So
really breathing in their own shit. Yeah.
yeah, so you wouldn't listen to a guy like me talk about real estate, but you would listen to some bozo who has a real estate crowd fund in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or
Okay, here we
Atlanta, or
go. All right,
whatever.
we're not gonna go not gonna go into that.
So um, but that's what it is, because visibility, for whatever reason, man, visibility means expertise.
well, if you're actually doing the work, it's hard to sit there and put out so much content of you doing the work. When do I got time to do the work? It's like, how hard it is for us to actually post stuff.
You know how hard it is for us to sit down and do this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's
But we are committed to our listeners, and we thank you for being
yeah.
here.
But it's come on the back of that because there's a guy who I listen to a lot, super super smart, right? I'm not gonna say his
Mhm.
name because he ain't cut me a check. super smart. And I was watching a video of his the other day, because I actually just joined his private Discord, and he was like, I say a lot of mean things about these people that you guys listen to. I'm not a mean person. Like, I don't hate these people. I think these guys are smart enough to do the things that they're doing. The issue is they're committing financial manslaughter, right? Because they're leading you and guiding you to a place that's going to be, you know, completely detrimental to, to your financial well-being. But they don't know it.
Right. Yeah. They
Because
they haven't
just
been through a cycle. They don't
no,
they don't know.
they don't know it.
It's just a
And
hustle.
he's someone who's been around. And he's the crazy thing is he's not that much older than us if he's not the same age as us. And he
Mm.
missed out on Amazon and Google on the IPO. He
Mm.
said that's the only two times he's been wrong.
Wow.
Every other IPO that's been pitched to him, they've all failed.
Mm.
But he missed out on Google and Amazon early. Right. So he's like, I saw what happened in the .com bubble. This is what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Where so many people, I was watching a video in like pets.com, like the second
Mm-hmm.
they went public and put .com in their name, they got like a crazy valuation
Mm-hmm.
just because they added .com in their name,
Wow.
right?
I
So
don't get it.
that type of stuff was happening back then. So if you look at
Mm-hmm.
now where people are literally just like money's falling out of the sky almost, it's
Mm-hmm.
very similar. Not because there's just an abundance of money, it's because of how the money is being made. And people are
Yeah.
starting to believe it because they aren't savvy enough to be able to understand the long term. And there's nothing wrong with, I know we talk about the hustle a lot, like everything is hustling. There's nothing wrong with hustling. I want to make that clear. Like, hustling can be the foundation to getting you to those next levels, right? There's nothing wrong with going out and making the money. Just don't be short sighted, right? Because hustling is seasonal. Hustling
Mm-hmm.
is, hustling is for the moment, right? The moment always rewards the hustlers, but history always rewards the disciplined. If you look back at historical charts or people who have had long term success, it's because they stick to their practice, not
Mm-hmm.
because they jump to every single thing that popped up and we can make $1 on, right? So, and these people who are seen as the experts and the top guys in their field, they jump on everything that comes out to tell you about it because they want you to get that message from them. You know why? Because they're in the business of social media, of of
Mm-hmm.
of targeting attention and monetizing it. Everything else is extra. You know what I mean? So, going back to initially before this whole rant started, um,
Right.
about schools and whatnot, um, it's you should not think of school as the way for you to get rich in terms of what you'll learn there. Um, and I'm someone who didn't go, and I'm gonna go eventually. I regret not going when I had the opportunities to just go, right? Um, because my network would be a lot different. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, hindsight is always 2020. You know what I mean? It's easy to say
Right.
now, but and because I didn't go, I ended up teaching myself all of this stuff. But
Yeah. Hence the Google grant.
yeah, but don't let these people fool you and mislead you into thinking everything you do has to be about making you super duper wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially when it comes to college, like you don't want to take your daughter to school because they didn't have a real estate program, bro. Like, you sound crazy.
Sound absolutely crazy. And I even think about if she even really wanted to do that, or if she want
Of
to do
course
something
you
else.
don't, but they feel like, oh, I feel like this is how I feel, right? I'm not really, I mean, I do complain a lot, but I complain about accountability. Accountability is big with me. So I
Mm,
feel like, man, if you're willing to trash an institution on that level, do something about it.
right.
Especially when it comes to HBCUs. You know what I'm saying? And they're supposed to be ours, and we're talking about y'all need to get y'all stuff together. Then, bro, show up.
Hmm.
Put your time up. You ain't doing nothing but buying cars and doing seminars, bro. Put your time up.
Yep. I was
Don't
trying to do
don't
the
don't
math,
wait
but I
for
can't
them.
do it right now.
Don't wait for them to try and implement some program to come teach people. Who's gonna teach them? Somebody on staff? Oh yeah, we got Joe in the back room. He's gonna be the new real estate teacher. Like, no, you have to
It's
get somebody who
interesting.
actually does it.
When we ask for things, you always think somebody else can just pick it up, but you are that someone else,
Exactly.
right? You, me, you, whoever's listening, like we are people who can go do things, right? And I always used to think like when I was a younger kid, I'm just like, 18, 19, I always felt like somebody was always in a role doing something. You
Mm,
think of adults, you're like, well, adults are handling that. The reality is they don't know what they're doing either, right? If you're willing to step up and you feel like you can do it better, right, or more efficient, like you can do that. So
mm-hmm,
if you feel like someone's not doing anything to the best or full capacity, like step up and do it. You
mm-hmm,
know, um, because you know every at the end of the day, everyone's just people, right? And people are fallible. You know, and if you feel like you can do something better, go ahead and do it. And I feel like I'm talking to like the kids, coming up because they always look. I can only speak for myself as a kid. You always think people are older than you. They just know, right?
mm-hmm.
They just know, and they're working on things that we're going to need. Um, but then as you get older, you realize like no one's really working on that, right? There's nobody in that position.
Nope.
So the thing you thought about 10 years ago is still not getting done because you didn't move.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get in the position to say, well, I'm going to take on that mission, right? I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to do it. And it's hard to do that. So you got to really figure out if you're going to sit on the sidelines complain about how things are or what's not there or what they're not teaching us or what's not at the certain school. um, you can be that person and you know down the people who aren't doing and they're working hard. I'm sure they're working hard over there to do certain things, right?
Unlimited funds.
Unlimited funds, right? And if you got somebody first generation that's coming in and they coming from the dirt, they ain't got nothing. They probably the one person in their in their family that's ever went to college, and they're getting there on a shoestring budget. Like, why would their first course be um, real estate development? Like, bro, I'm broke. I'm broke. What are you talking about? Like, if I'm
Oh
if I'm a
man.
person that cares about somebody and I want them to have some type of footing in this life, I want to get them to a place where they can make income. You know, even me going into this industry, I'm able to go into an industry like real estate because I have a certain safety net, right? I
Mm-hmm.
come from a two-parent household that has that own a home, right? If anything went real bad for me, I have somewhere I can be, right? I
Yeah.
can I can be out here making risk, but I'm not gonna tell the person that comes from the dirt like you can be a real estate developer, like
Yeah.
what the like. And it's
Don't go to
not to
school
say,
and learn real estate.
yeah, like come on, like, and it's not that those people can't attain those things. You can, but there's steps to it, right? Because the reality is, any one slip and it's done, it's over. Because most likely you're the only one person that made it in your family,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't risk it all on on being in real estate for the culture,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So like we gotta be like have some type of like foundational base, right? So if you go into these industries where it's most likely you're not gonna make money for the first 6 months or a year, you got to have something that's going to hold you up, and that's going to be that job that a lot of people are putting people down for, right? It's going to be that trade in plumbing or electrical or whatever, right? That's going to make a decent income. I mean, a real decent income. You're talking about 75, $80,000,
Mm-hmm.
easy, right? The average person is making like 59, 60,000. So I always want to make it important that you can't down these people for trades that are really building their livelihood, right? That
Mm-hmm.
will allow them to invest in the future. Um, so the point I was making is you it's dangerous to tell someone that they are not going to learn these, real estate. You're not going to learn real estate at certain college. You're not going to learn investing. And the reality is you'll learn it, um, after uh, you exit school and you have the money, you establish yourself, investing will be there. It's not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's um it's unfair and potentially dangerous, well, very dangerous to tell an 18-year old, 21-year old that school is not going to help them. And this is from another person that didn't go to college.
Exactly.
So like I'm speaking from a certain amount of experience. Um, they went the route of entrepreneurship, and I've done okay. Um, but there's a certain safety net that's going to allow you to move further and faster with income that's coming in consistently
Mm-hmm.
from those trades I just talked about. So, and attaining those type of trades and getting into a job to make income. So
Yeah, I
I
mean
don't think,
that's true.
how do people think like the world turns?
They
Like
don't.
90% of people who work in these, now we call them essential jobs, uh, make everything run for us. So
Yeah,
are we
but
all
they
gonna
aren't
just,
visible, bro. That's the
yeah.
thing. That's what I'm saying. They're not a person who's actually doing something isn't they're not visible. So it's
Mm-hmm.
easy for someone to pop up on your screen. You didn't even have to look for them. They just pop
Yeah.
up. And it's easy for them to say, I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I before I came back into real estate, I did 6 years with a company, with a guy who's been running the same company for 30 some odd years,
Mm-hmm.
doing like $5 to $12 million a year,
Right.
doing electrical work. And I put on a lot of people I know there.
Mm-hmm.
Even Corey, who you met at the shout out Corey, shout out C Boy,
Mm-hmm.
the one you met at Joey's house that day.
Right.
Um, got him a job there, got his start as an electrician. Now he's a railroad electrician, making over
Mm-hmm.
6 figures, right? So what do you think? What do you think his life is like now that he went and got an actual trade that paid him enough money to be like, I can stash some money on the side and begin to try and make this work for me. Now I can educate myself on how to make this work because I have the means to actually implement what it is I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning
Right.
without jeopardizing my actual living arrangement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, and so I think going back to it all comes down to visibility, and I don't think those people should be visible. I think you should learn what you have to learn, talk to whoever you have to talk to, but don't let these people who are in the business of social media influence you to just be like, I don't need to go out and get specialized in my field and get a degree, or I don't need to advance, in my industry. I just need to sell 1,000 t-shirts
Mm-hmm.
or create online e-commerce sites. And you can, don't get me wrong, again, you can make money with that. But everybody, that's not gonna last for everybody, because what they're not telling you is that they've been doing that for the last 15 years.
Mhm.
Like, they've been doing
Right.
that for the last 15 to 20 years. And now it's popping because we're all sitting at home and there's trillions of dollars in the streets
Mhm.
and people want to shop.
Mhm. But I was gonna say, there's been a trend. Have you seen a trend of like people actually saying quit your job?
Yeah, but that
Constantly.
happens every time the market is pumping. It happened in '06, '07. It was
Mhm.
be financially retired, quit your job, fire your boss, the whole
Mhm.
nine. And then 2008, 2009 comes about, and everybody's saying, I just want to be successful.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. Yeah.
And Trey Songz is singing, what was his first song? Like Dollar in a Dream. Oh, that was J. Cole, Dollar in a Dream. And it's reflective in society and in culture.
Mhm.
You know, it's cyclical. As things change, the music and the movies and like just the overall temperament of the world will change. Right now, everybody's just having so much fun and having access to so much money
Mhm.
that it feels like you don't need to have these things to
Mhm.
maintain the way you live. But the greatest advice I never received, I always say this, was work for somebody for 5 to 10 years, maybe even 15, um, and then start your own business because you have the experience in that industry.
Mhm.
And the majority of the people I know who actually have their own business, not like I made 100 grand or a couple 100 grand off the internet or even a million, like people who actually have their own business, right? All of them worked for somebody and then started their own company in the same field.
Mhm.
You look at Quan and Sean. Quan and Sean, uh, they were truck drivers well, Sean was in the truck for a minute,
Mhm.
but him and Quan are best friends. So when they decided to make that jump together, it made sense. They had somebody who was already in the field. He knew how it worked. He knew the numbers before the pandemic. Before the pandemic and um, before the influx of all this new capital
Mhm.
that would jade people's accounting.
Yeah.
So for them, he's like, I know what the real numbers look like. I can get by if things go back the other way,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know?
Yep.
So there's nothing wrong with that. But just don't let these guys put other people in front of you that they stand next to as experts. Because I'll be the first one to tell you they don't know shit.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And it's not to be mean, but it's the truth, man. Like nobody's expertise is rooted in failure. How can you tell me how to avoid it if you've never experienced it? You've only been in business in the last 3 or 4 years. Everything you know is about going up. Like,
Mhm.
you don't know how to avoid the potholes. You only know how to drive on brand new roads. Why would I listen to you?
Mm. Yeah, you
There's no.
preaching tonight.
I'm just saying. It's just the point, man. It's like why? Would it's hard. Not to say I wouldn't listen, but it's hard to it's hard to let you advise me because I've seen failure. Right? I've seen catastrophic failure in many people. Like back then, people were killing themselves, and we made it through that. People were jumping out of buildings. You know what I'm saying? They were trying to kill their spouse. Like it was it was it was wild. But I know we were young. We were so young
It's
that
just
I
like that's
guess,
not something to laugh at, but I don't know
but it's the
why.
truth,
It's
bro.
just
Like they were they needed insurance money, like because they were so
in
heavily
debt.
vested at the
Mm.
top because it would never end.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know what that looks like. And a lot of those guys now, even though we're the same age, they don't because this is their first lap. This is their first time around the track.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna happen. They're gonna figure it out at some point, like what it actually means to experience failure on that level. But the difference is we now have the internet. So now it's also going to be visible to everyone that follows them. And that's the
That's
thing
the
that's
thing.
different,
I
you
don't.
know?
I don't know. I don't. I think the internet is a funny thing because if you open your Instagram right now and scroll through your timeline, everybody's winning. Everybody's winning in all areas of life.
Mm-hmm.
Their money is good. They're making so much money. Their relationships are perfect. You know, their house, their kids are perfect. And the reality about social network is no one posts the bad. They always post the good in all areas of their life. So
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about these things and we kind of seem like doom and gloom, it's because it's not on if it's not on my timeline, it doesn't exist.
But that's because it's normal. Like there's no need to post normal things. Why would I post
Yeah.
something so normal? If I run a business and somebody pays me with a check and the check bounces, I'm not gonna post that because it's not. I'm not thinking let me post this bounce check. Like no, that's a normal occurrence of someone who
Right.
owns a business, right?
Right.
It's things like that that they happen. So
Hmm.
that jades the reality though, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
because now when
Yeah.
it changes what you actually envision when it comes to running a business, and then you
Hmm.
jump in um, trying to convert your hustle into a business and it doesn't work. And not
Hmm.
only where you may have left your job to be self-employed, but then you'll always be self-employed because your business will never run without you.
Hmm.
So you still got a job. And for me, running as a business owner and an entrepreneur, you have a huge responsibility not only to the people you hire but to the city that you work in. You know what I'm saying? Because how you treat the citizens there, if you have an actual brick and mortar place, you
Hmm.
become a fabric in the community.
Hmm.
As you become more prominent, in the community, you have more of a say so amongst city council because many of the decisions they make could impact the way you do business, right? So you have to get involved. So I feel like as an entrepreneur, you have a huge responsibility to not only create jobs, but ultimately improve the areas you work in, right? Because
Hmm.
you are a business person in this area. You have a business license that you pay for, and just like you had an office, right?
Hmm.
People come to your
Hmm.
office to meet you
Hmm.
in the city that you work in, and when they come see you, they go spend their tax dollars, or they go spend their money at other
Hmm.
places creating tax dollars for the city. So
Yep.
if you create a situation where people come to see you in your city, you're an asset to the city. Now you may now have pull and leverage with city council because you bring in sales tax revenue.
Hmm.
You refer them to your friends who have restaurants, who wherever, right? The restaurants you go to, they're like, oh, where can I eat? Oh, there's a taco place down the street that you can go there. Like all of that plays a part in entrepreneurship, and I think the whole idea of it has kind of gotten washed down to being self-employed, and that's whack.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, yeah, it's cool. You don't have to flip burgers or something, but doing that until you're 70 is whack.
Right. Right.
You know what I
Uh,
mean? Like,
Well, I think we also get what it means to be an entrepreneur and a self-employed person kind of mixed. Um, an entrepreneur is someone who brings something new to the market that doesn't exist,
mm-hmm,
right? Um, a self-employed person is someone who runs a small business, right? I don't want to say
mm-hmm,
self-employed person, but uh, is you're running a small business. I think most people are running a small business. They're not entrepreneurs in the sense of the raw definition of
mm-hmm,
bringing a new product to the market that we don't know anything about, and you're trying to say, no, this is going to be the next thing. Like, no, you Amazon, for example, we're going to have you pay a monthly fee, and you're going to get free shipping, 2 day shipping. That was new to the market. And
Mm-hmm.
like, why would I pay a monthly fee to pay? Well, because you're gonna want to, order 10 packages, 10 or 15 packages, and you're not gonna want to pay $7 to $8 for every package. We're gonna make your
Yeah.
we're gonna make it free, right? For a monthly fee of $10 or $12. So bringing something new to the market is entrepreneurship. Most people are running a small business, right? You're in whatever industry you are. Maybe you have a cleaners, you have a lawn care business, you run a tax business, you're a barber shop, right? You run a small business, um, and it's okay. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at the numbers, I mean, you can probably look them. I haven't looked them in a long time, but if you go to Small Business Administration, you can probably look up the amount of small businesses there are in the United States. And I remember a few years back, it was something like it was well over 90% of the businesses in the U.S. were made up of small business owners, right? So and that speaks to you being part of the fabric of your community, but also like most of the income revenue of the
Yeah.
whole country. So um, you can it's okay to run, a small business that's making and small business they could even be gross income 500,000 millions of dollars is still considered a small business.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the word entrepreneurship is just so sexy for people. I'm an entrepreneur, you know, I'm an entrepreneur. So I think it's easy to get caught in the glitz and glam of what it means to be an entrepreneur because every day of being an entrepreneur or a small business owner is just work, And I don't
Yeah.
know why we don't glorify I'm a W2 earner, They need a new sexy word for it, I guess,
Well, but
because
nobody
they
knows
are very, very
nobody
essential.
knows nobody knows how they work. Nobody knows what that means. Like the people don't know what things mean. They know the words. They don't know what W
Yeah.
two means. They don't know what 1099 means. They don't know what K1s mean. Schedule Ks. They don't know what none of this stuff means. But the guys who
Mhm,
are telling them get your LLC and nobody's telling you how you're going to get paid,
mhm,
right? And stuff or how to pay yourself. And then that's when you get screwed. Or you go listen to the CPA guy that I showed you the other day who said go buy a G wagon and
mhm.
you can write it off. No, you can't. That's not how it works. Like that is not accounting. You will be audited and hit with a
Yeah.
tax bill. Like so it's and the crazy thing is he's a CPA, which is that's wild. Like he's actually certified. But it's
But
all of that kinds of
yeah.
stuff, man. It's just it's and for me, man, one of my goals, which we talked about before, is to take a company public. And it's
Mhm,
more so about what it means for uh, business people like us more than it is about me.
mhm, mhm,
Because 90 some odd percent of the jobs that are created amongst these companies happen after the IPO,
mhm,
right? So if here's why we don't have business on that level or businesses on that level. Say you create a business, you're doing 30 million in revenue, right? Now, before you even go public, you get an offer from if you have a media company. Say you have a media
mhm,
company, 30 million in revenue, or I even say net income, 30 million in net income,
mhm,
right? Maybe 150 million in revenue or something like that. And then you get an offer from someone like Viacom for like 10 billion. Peace out, right?
right.
Because there aren't enough of us in that position to step in and do that for each other.
Mhm,
So we're trying to take everyone out the workforce and make them self-employed. But nobody's trying to go public. So that way when by the time you grow your media company, you go public and you scale your business to billions of dollars, By the time the next one comes up from someone who looks like you, they don't have to work with Viacom.
Right.
You can step in and make that happen.
Mm-hmm. You can be there.
That's why certain groups of people retain wealth. We get stuck thinking small. And I know it's hard to say making a couple $1 million on the internet is thinking small, but it is. Like you make a couple $1 million on the internet by yourself, okay, you get to go on trips
Mm-hmm.
and buy nice things. Like what? What else? Like what else happens? Like
Yeah.
what are you really doing in terms of the grand, the grand scheme of things?
Mm-hmm.
Going public gets us on the game board.
Mm-hmm.
It's our game piece, like we used to say. So that way, when other black entrepreneurs, right, like real entrepreneurs, do develop their own businesses and scale them up, they don't have to get bought out by these other large companies.
Mm-hmm.
They have a resource. They have a
Yeah.
hand up. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So I think that's why it's important to really focus on, get your money, get your short term money, but don't lose sight. If you're truly an entrepreneur, don't lose sight of the overall goal. The only way we can grow our wealth in this country is if we continue to go public and create real jobs, real meaningful jobs,
Mm-hmm.
right? And continue to build with each other on that level.
Yeah.
That's the only way, because we're the only people who understand where we come from. Now, whether we use it correctly or not is a different story. But we're the only people who understand our neighborhoods that way. But we won't make the investment. So we'll be wherever you come from, you'll be in that neighborhood, and you'll say, "Man, why we don't have a Trader Joe's here, or why we don't have a such and such here?" Well, it's clear because those people make investments based on demographics,
Mm-hmm.
and while they may not know that the demographics would actually work out, maybe they're not going to take that chance because it doesn't fit their criteria.
Yeah.
But who understands that? Who understands that more than the people who live there?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So if you come from these areas and it comes time for some form of public investment, then you have the means to do so. You run a public company. You can completely change how this area runs
Yep. Right.
because you come from there.
You also the commercial broker is also an asset because who do you think pitches these companies
Hmm.
to come to these different areas, right? If if I'm pitching a developer, it says, hey, this demographic of these people in this certain area, um, because they're gonna ask, right? The demographics like this, black and Mexicans, right? Whatever it is, and they make this amount of income, and a Trader Joe's would be sufficient because they don't have a grocery store within a 3 mile radius, right? They have to travel 6 miles to the nearest grocery store, right? This is
Hmm.
the type of products they want. This is the type of products they need. So if I'm a commercial broker and I know, like you said, to your point, I know the area, I know what the community needs, and I pitch that to a Trader Joe's or whoever, um, we have it's useful for you, builder, to build this grocery store, and I also have Trader Joe's is going to come in and be your anchor tenant, right? These are how deals. These are how deals are made. All right. It's not just they should build this. It's like, well, no, what
Yeah.
it has to
Why?
be some type of money revenue for them that would justify them building that property there, right?
Hmm.
And who better to tell them what the area is and who the community is than people who come from that, right?
Hmm.
Who can pitch the numbers. So, which is another reason why we need more people, for one, in the real estate industry,
Hmm.
and for two, in different sectors of the industry, right? Um, so we can really start building things from the ground up, and we can get people in these certain areas. but it has to make sense, right? So just for that, the example we talked about, having a trade job, right, where you make 80,000 or six figures as an electrician. Now you live within that community. You make the money. You make the income for someone like us who wants to pitch a Trader Joe's to build um, a grocery store in the neighborhood,
Hmm.
because we know that we went to school, we got trades, we got jobs, six-figure jobs, and the money is there for those companies to build in that area. So this is how things work from like all the way down, micro level all to macro level. Um, is everything. We need everything. we need we need everything at the same time, right? So we don't
Yes.
need everyone to be a businessy businessman,
No.
right? We need people who have jobs, who who we need everything at the same time. So
Hmm.
I don't want I don't want to feel like people who may be listening to something online that what they're doing isn't sufficient, right? It's part of what's going to make the community when you need to pitch something that you want to bring to the community, something of value. But it can't be brought if there's no one there who makes that type of income, right?
Or not
Because
even that.
everybody want to sell.
It's that's part of it. But what I'm saying is the normally the part, like you mentioned, that investment wouldn't be made if the income wasn't there, right? But if you're from that area and you're capable of making that investment on your own because you've scaled your business to a certain level and you've gone public and all that,
Mm,
you'd be able to do that,
yeah, 100%.
right?
So
You'd
it's
be
like,
able
yeah.
to implement whatever you need to implement or create whatever resources necessary because you have the means to do so. Like remember we went to go look at the budget, the city budget for Rialto like
Mm-hmm,
12 years ago, and the city was
mm-hmm,
only in debt $10 million.
yeah.
So if you're a C, if you go public today, you're a billionaire.
Mm-hmm,
That's just what it is. So for you to sell off a little bit of shares and do some things with the city you come from, that's nothing. You know that like that's literally nothing. It's a
mm-hmm,
drop in the bucket. But other people won't do it because they don't understand the area like we do. But instead of us
mm-hmm,
using it for our benefit, we use it against each other. Oh, I would never do that there. But that's why
mm-hmm,
I'm glad to see like recently in the last 5 years, if you've noticed, there's been like a really strong trend of like food trucks in the city, right?
yep.
And it's cool to see that because these are people who come from the area and they're able to provide like alternative like fresh food alternatives in areas that wouldn't normally have access to it. You know, trap kitchen
Right.
tacos and all that, they pop up in the
Mm-hmm,
projects all the time.
mm-hmm.
You know, with the in and out truck being the projects, like I don't think so.
No, no,
So
it
you know,
wouldn't.
we have to adjust. We have to change our mindset and learn to use that. Learn to use our understanding of these environments for our benefit.
Mm-hmm,
You know what I'm saying? And then we can create real entrepreneurs from these areas that actually go out and do something, right? You look at even Nas. We talked about Nas earlier, made a huge investment in Coinbase, you know, in 2013 and like 10x his money. Now he's like a real person. He's a real player.
right.
You know what I mean? So if he want to go and do another one or two of those or even take another company public, by that time he'd be able to probably really, you know, enact change in the area he came from outside of just being from there.
Mm-hmm,
You know what I mean? So um that for me, that's a big thing for me because I just get tired of seeing all these people who are visible and just have them seen as experts, especially when you know There's a ton of other people out here who are actually working, but and it just seems so short-sighted,
Mm-hmm.
and we're losing sight of the overall goal of scaling these businesses up, taking them public, and providing jobs in communities that wouldn't get those opportunities.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
agree. I agree. So you're basically saying it is not enough to be from an area. It's important to build in that area.
no. Why? Why?
Come back and build.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to live there, but your money can be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Your money can be at work there. You don't have to still live. I'm not saying that go live in an apartment in your old neighborhood after you
Mm-hmm.
making $50 million a
Right.
year or something. No, but your money can still be working in these areas and like make your
Mm-hmm.
presence mean
Yeah.
something outside of a photo opportunity. Where it's like, oh,
Right.
you seen such and such. He was in the projects today. Let me get a picture wearing $3 million worth of jewelry.
Mm-hmm. You
Like
keeping it
that's
real. You
cool.
came back.
That's cool. Like I'm not saying don't buy the jewelry. I'm just saying like make your presence mean something beyond just the opportunity to be seen next to you. And then because your money is already gone, you live
Yeah.
in a totally different area. You pay property tax somewhere else, a bunch of property tax,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
right? So do something. Just try to at least do something. Be involved. See what you can do. And I'm not saying you have to broadcast it, but if enough of us do that at the same time, that's how we'll see change in 10, 20 years. But if everybody's out here like, yo, give me my money so I can go fly to Dubai and Tulum and wear designer clothes and all that other stuff, we ain't gonna get nowhere. And in 10 years from now, we'll be having the same marches and the same conversations, and the police is still gonna be beating us up. I'm sorry, but
Yeah, so
I'm sorry, but it's
anyway.
true. It's true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
So yeah, I think we could wrap it up now, but I just wanted
Yeah.
to really make that known.
Yeah. I think
You
it's all been said.
know.
We'll leave some for the next podcast. Um,
Mhm.
join us next week on Monday. We appreciate y'all for being here. We thank and appreciate each one of you for listening, taking the time to listen, whether you're listening on Spotify, or Apple, or watching us on YouTube.
Yeah,
Um, so appreciate you again, and thanks for coming. And see you next week, Monday. This is
and make
Rich by
sure
Monday podcast.
make sure you guys comment, like, and subscribe. Smash. I gotta get my YouTuber on, right? Smash that like button, as they say. Because that lets
uh,
that lets the YouTube algorithm know that you guys want to see more content from us. So
right.
if there was anything that spoke to you tonight, go ahead and drop it in the comments, and we can
Yeah.
discuss it. Um, and subscribe and like the video,
Yeah.
and we'll see
High
y'all
five
next
us when
week.
you out in the street.
Absolutely. So
All
he's
right.
out.